y'all take Frieza for granted, and I know you do because we grew up with two totally different Friezas. See, y'all grew up with the comedic relief Golden Frieza, teaming up with Universe 7 and, getting his life restored.
This is the nigga I grew up with.
This was the first time that we seen Goku. If you want to count Raditz, it's understandable, but he got, smoked in his, same arc. It really didn't. It don't hold the same weight. Frieza was the first nigga that I saw real life, no diff Goku. No diff him. He was the first nigga that was like, I'm only using 1% of my shit, right? I'm having fun with this shit. I haven't had to take this form in years, you know what I'm saying? I'm really just playing with you. Goku like this, nigga, you bluffing. And then he was looking like this. Then he was real life, no diff Goku. No diff him. He was the first nigga that was like, I'm only using 1% of my shit, right? I'm having fun with this shit. I haven't had to take this form in years, you know what I'm saying? I'm really just playing with you. Goku like this, nigga, you bluffing. And then he was looking like this. You see, the serious nature of the Saiyan saga, the Frieza saga, it's just incomparable how we were watching this shit once a week, and we didn't know if next week was gonna be the end of the fucking anime. And when this nigga showed up, the way he did Vegeta, the back history of blowing up the whole Saiyan's planet list is nothing that compares. Frieza was a galactic pirate. He was dead fucking serious. It was no games when it came to him. It was no comedic relief moments. He really was something, he was insurmountable. It was impossible. This was the first time that we was just like, Goku can't do this. This nigga tanked the spirit bomb. The same way Vegeta did. I know Vegeta did too, but he tanked it. And it was just a different feeling, bro.
Welcome back. This is for, I don't know, anime fans or whoever's listening, because for me, Dragon Ball Z doesn't go back to what he said, but it does, All good stories have that feeling, but real OG Dragon Ball Z fans from America watched it on cassette tapes. Dragon Ball Z was in America, and it wasn't on TV first. Regular kids like me made Dragon Ball Z so popular, they stole it or bought it or whatever. I think they bought it, the rights to it, and then they put the shit on TV. The shit you watched was the watered down version. What I watched was people getting punched in their groins and cursing and blood spewing, people getting their whole body punched through, heads getting exploded. You's got the watered down language, they watered everything down. Dragon Ball Z was super raw. It was raw. It was almost not even a kid's fucking. It was borderline for kids and borderline for grown-ups. And when you bought the cassette tapes, it wasn't in English. The first wave of Dragon Ball Z was in Chinese or Japanese, which I don't know, Mori Toriyama, salute. I don't know exactly what you are, so I don't want to embarrass myself. But it was in a Oriental language. There was no American version. There was no Goku and Vegeta and everybody speaking English. No, they all spoke the different language. And they had American subtitles. You had to read the story, And when a whole bunch of action's going on and the story's going on, and you're 13, 14, and you can't really read, you don't know what's going on, but you know what's going on, Then your buddies and everybody, they sit back and they're like, yo, that shit was dope. Let's rewind it again and fucking see what they were saying, because I couldn't keep up with what the fuck were they saying about this. And everybody's rewinding everything. We're talking about it. And, it had a lot of different feel of watching this show. I've never watched a show like that before. And it did so many things than just entertain me. You see, that not being able to read thing, but loving something and wanting to know what the fuck the story was so bad, you would ask to borrow your friend's tape and you would go home and read the story and watch it yourself. You know? Or you go get your own cassette tapes and, you know? And then you learn how to read, but you're not trying to teach yourself how to read. You're trying to figure out the story and what's happening, and you're learning new words and shit. And the next thing you know, you're like, I don't even know what that word means. What's fucking hyperbolic chamber? What's a hyperbolic chamber? What is that? Then years later find out that it's real. But as a kid, everybody told you you're a fucking moron. You know? Because they're morons. They never seen Michael Jackson talk about it and say, I made one. You know? It's just not a time chamber. So you start learning things that adults don't even have a fucking clue about. But you think it's just regular shit. But it's not. Then you learn all these lessons Goku's teaching through his journey. And then one day, you start understanding because you start reading another story. Now that you can read, you start reading another story. You go from reading about Son Goku, and then you learn about the Son of God. And then you start seeing a story. And then you start looking at that story, and you start looking at his story, and you're like, wait up. It's the same story. Then you go and look at other stories, and you're like, wow, it's the same story. And then you see people in real life. You know? And they don't have those stories. They're liars. They're charlatans. They're pretenders. Dragon Ball Z, for some people, is like what the Bible is for people in church. You know? Except we actually learn our story. We actually know what we're talking about. You picked like 3 chapters and a couple lessons and said, this is it. You know, you threw a whole book away, some of yous. You just left the whole first book out and said, no, we don't need that anymore. But who cares about the origin of the story? Doesn't matter anymore. You know? It's amazing how you can really look back on your childhood and say, I became a better man because of a fucking cartoon. Not only watching the cartoon, no, because of my hunger to watch the cartoon made me tap into reading, and then that tapping into that led me into, other things. All these little things. That's why I tell people all the time, what did you like when you was a kid? If you was lucky enough to be raised in a time of decent cartoons with some actual lessons and things, what did you learn? Did you really think that cartoon they was teaching you morals or lessons for no reason? A lot of people, I guess, would say, yeah, they're just cartoons. Where's moral school? Where's I'm going to teach my son to be brave school? Oh yeah, I forgot. Y'all just throw them to the streets and the schools. But the school's not allowed to teach morality. You know what I mean? It's a conflict of interest. You know, they have to teach skills to make you a productive human being. You know? You're supposed to go to church for morality. Or whatever belief system, you know? Older people that you know or something. Or your parents. Oh yeah, parents are the ones sending them to other people. Like, what's wrong? Why doesn't my kid behave? I don't understand why. Because you have to teach them. Do you need a book for that? Sometimes. But if you can't understand the book or don't know where to begin like I did when I was younger, you know, you kind of got, movies and things you grew up on. Show your kids those things. You know, the things that helped you become a better person. Make them watch it with you. And then explain the morals of the stories and stuff, you know? Kids usually learn faster when they watch things. You know, like when they watch adults do shit and then they start mimicking you. And then everybody goes, I don't understand why my kid talking like that. Why they be lying on the side? Because they be watching you. And they've learned from the best. All love, all praise to the Most High.